The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey folks, good evening. Welcome to the program. I'm Scotty Roberts, your host, and this is the Intrepid radio program. Sends radio because now we are just a podcast. Thank you for being here. Thanks for coming over and watching. I want you to know that if you are watching from YouTube or excuse me, wow, what was that? From YouTube or from Facebook, that you are not going to see the full benefit. Oh, yeah. I think from YouTube you will. The full benefit of the chat room. You've got to come up. I said that all backwards. YouTube is where you're going to find the best chat room. And that chat room is going to be available only over on YouTube. Boy, was I being redundant there or not? So, we're off to a great start, huh? My brain is on track and everything. I didn't quite pull a Joe Biden. I didn't freeze up, but there you go. Let's roll into the show. This is the Intrepid radio program, and you can find yourself in the company of very good people if you come on over to the chat room on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And where good conversation takes place. I see a bunch of you are there now, and but there's a whole lot of you I can see that are not in the chat room, that are out there listening. You can come into the chat room and join. Nobody there bites. You can join the fellow Intrepids and enjoy the show that way. And if you're just listening, then the chat room won't do you much good anyway. So if you're listening and watching, the chat room is a lot of fun. All right. Let's see. Where is my head today? I just came out of another one of those moments that I ranted on last Wednesday. I believe it was Wednesday. It might have been Monday about, kids just not doing what you ask them to do. Do you ever, as a parent, have you ever cleaned something? You go, wow, this thing's a mess. My kids over the last week have really messed this up. Microwave. You know how microwaves get if you don't wipe them down every day or every couple of days? Yeah, that's what I did last night. I inhaled my spit. So, oh, by the way, Field Guy said something here that I totally agreed with, and I know what it's from. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So maybe that's applicable for tonight. So one of my kids used the microwave. I scrubbed out, absolutely scrubbed that thing. It was sparkly. And we got a plate in there, a glass plate that spins, and I washed that too and everything. And I just went now to warm up something for my daughter. And I said, here, let me get you that. I'll warm that up for you. And I reach in because I see a napkin on top of that. And I touch it as I'm holding the food in the other hand. And my fingers sink into this invisible or clear greasy liquid that's all built up inside that bowl. And I'm like, who used the microwave and didn't clean up after themselves? I didn't. So, folks, nobody did it. But guess who had to clean it up again? Me, because I had to use it right at that moment. Anyway, those are the little things in life that frustrate me. That's not the shit kicking part of life. That's just the stuff that frustrates me. And just more of the same. And you can never get to the bottom of it. And so you say, you want to say, hey, I'll just remove the microwave from the house then. Then since nobody uses it, and nobody cleans up their messes, I'll just eradicate the problem. But then I can't use it. You know, another thing that happened today, see, this Rainey came back from camp. She had Ellery at camp today, and she came in like this, and she said, open your hand. I got something for you. I never know whether to trust her when she does that, because she's always got a smirk on her face. Open your hand. I'm going to put a gift in it. So I went, okay. I put my hand under there, and she drops this into my hand. And I looked at it, and she goes, "What do you think that is?" I go, "Well, it's a rock." "Well, I know," she says. "And what kind of rock?" I said, "Well, it looks like it's a little quartzy or agate." She said, "That's flint." And this was on the other side of the rock. It was something like that. And I said, "Well, that's kind of neat." I said, "Are you sure it's flint?" And she said, "Yeah, get a piece of." And I said, "I know how to test it. Get a piece of steel and strike it." And I didn't have anything that quite worked. I have this dagger sitting on my desk that I use as a letter opener, and so I pulled that out and struck it a few times. No sparks. All right. So then Rainey, she's looking around for something iron or metal, and she comes up with this, which is this old machete I have sitting over there. Here, to give you an idea of the size of that, like many things, it's too big to fit in one picture. So there it is. She takes this and she's going, and I said, don't cut your fingers off. Then she set it on the floor, the rock, and she takes the machete and she goes, whack. And she goes, aha! I saw a spark. But then as she hit whack, the thing flew off somewhere, and then she couldn't find it. Obviously found it because she put it back on my desk. But this is not the way to start a fire when you're in the wild. Although you might be able to if you really work diligently at it, or you get a couple of sticks and rub them together. So there you go. Welcome to everybody that's here, that's coming in. Randall Flagg, good to see you. Field Guy, good to see you. And Barbie D, always nice to see you. Glad that you're here. Leslie is here. And who else we got? Roger Rabbit is here in the chat room. And who else? I thought there were a couple of other people I might have missed. Delaney Pearl Jones is here. Good to see you. Glad you made it in. And what else? Who else? Where else? So welcome everybody that's in the chat room. So come on in, everybody. If you want to chat, meet more Intrepeds, come on in. And you'll have a good conversation. JP is here. So good to see you, Jason. Glad you made it in. And so tonight, just for a couple of minutes before I get going on our topic tonight, I got to tell you, did anybody watch, and you can watch it by going into YouTube and looking it up. Did you watch Jean-Pierre, Karim Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary? Did you see her little press conference? And some reporter asked her about the very recent things over the weekend of Joe Biden's obvious brushes with the deeper senility. And she immediately looked very incensed by this, and she looks down and now, you know how she always goes like this when you watch her press conferences. She goes, if we go the something thing that well, in the conference and the way and that's what she does. This time she was straightforward. She just looked down and she read a statement about Joe Biden's and how this is all obviously AI manipulation. So you can see where this is going. That's already the excuse they've used to say that they can't turn over the videotapes of Robert Hur's, the special counsel interview of Joe Biden, because they said, well, we've turned over the transcript. We can't turn over the video because you can't trust it. You don't know who's going to be manipulating it and trying to make something out of it. Well, this is the deal now. That's the new excuse. And now there was a video of Joe Biden at a fundraiser this weekend, a big gala, all the old Hollywood stars that are supporting him, and they raised $30 million. And at the end, it shows, and they had Biden and Joe in the middle, and who was on the other side? Was it George Clooney? I know George Clooney was there, but I can't remember if he was the one. It was at the end. And if you've seen the video, at the end, and Biden's just standing there, like you saw him in some other videos, just with the smile, the glaze. And he's not moving. And as everybody's clapping, Obama reaches over and takes him by the arm and turns him. And Joe Biden turns with him, just turns, and he walks off with that stiff-armed thing that he's doing now, which, if you look at doctors who deal with people with Alzheimer's or cognitive decline, they say one of the things, the way Joe Biden walks, the way he holds his arms, these are all indicative of somebody who's going through that. That's not to make a political point. That's just to describe what we're seeing. Now, how many of you here believe that Joe Biden is not suffering any kind of cognitive decline and that he is the sharpest knife in the drawer, according to the White House and a lot of people that support him? Oh, he's sharp. He's sharp. He's with it. He's the smartest one in the White House. And when I hear them say that, when I've heard Jean-Pierre say that he's the sharpest one in the White House, I go, holy shit, this is what we've got running our country then? If he's the sharpest one. And I don't say this to mock Joe Biden. I say this to mock the party. I say this to mock the people who are gaslighting us. This is the biggest lie being foisted on America now. It's not all the politics. It's not all the topics that are out there. The biggest lie being foisted on us is that Joe Biden is okay and that he's smart and he's on top of his game. This is not the truth. And I only say this because I don't care who would be in office. I don't care. I might have a different compassionate take on it. Let's say I was watching Ronald Reagan. We all saw when he started to decline. He wasn't as bad as Joe Biden, but toward the end of his term, his second term, you could see there was a little slipping every now and then. And he even admitted it. And people were like, is he going to make it to the end of his term, or do we need to have his vice president step up? And nobody wanted to see that, but we were all willing to let that happen if it needed to, because we had compassion on the man. And it was out of compassion, I would say, I hope he makes it, but if he doesn't, I feel really bad, but he might need to step down. Now, with Joe Biden, I don't have as much compassion for him, mostly because somebody can steal away your compassion by kicking the shit out of you. I feel that the Biden administration has kicked the shit out of us. Now, this topic tonight isn't about politics. I'm just making an application here on something I wanted to talk about for a minute ahead of time. The Biden administration has kicked the shit out of America. And they continue to do it in every possible way by gaslighting America. It's like, I just want to see, you want to take the Biden administration, the Democrats, and just shake them and go, do you not have anybody that can do this job other than Joe Biden is your best person for this? But you know why they aren't replacing him? Because, it's such bad form to not have the incumbent run. And at the same time, if they took him out of office before the election, they'd have to admit that everybody else was right and that they were wrong. Oh, you can't do that when you're running for office. So rather than deplete the public's trust in them, which I don't think is much there anymore, I think the people that stand for Biden not because of Biden, but because they don't want Trump in, and they want to keep the political action that is going on in the White House, right? They want to keep that in play, which they'll keep in play whether Kamala Harris rises to the presidency or whether they put somebody else in. I say, don't you have anybody that's good enough and smart enough to run for that office, Democrat Party, other than gaslighting us with Joe? And I will say again, and I said this at the very beginning of his term, I said this during the campaign. I said, Joe Biden has, whether you like him or not, or agree with him or not, or think he's corrupt or not, or a pervert or not, no matter what you think about him, put all that stuff aside for a second. As the president of the vice president under Obama, he did his bit for God and country. He built his legacy. It was intact no matter what you thought of him. It was intact when he left office. Then Trump took over. So Joe had 4 years of reflecting on his legacy as the vice president. What did they do? They drag him into the presidency when he's not fit. We knew he wasn't fit 5 years ago. But look, he still made it into office. And remember, I look at Joe Biden today and I just want to look at the left and go, 86 million votes. Right. Pull this leg and it'll play Jingle Bells. So he made it into office. My point I always made was, I think this is elder abuse. I think Joe Biden should have been allowed to retire. I don't know what deals. They obviously made a good deal to Jill. You see the way Jill is with him? I have this good feeling they're like, get him through his term and you'll get this. And so she's working to keep him in his term. They can't replace him now. Well, I think they could. Just think for a second. Think outside your political boxes and go, there's got to be somebody in the Democrat Party who they could bring in now, less than 5 months before the election, and run a fantastic campaign because the public would accept him. The Democratic public would accept him. Is there somebody powerful enough to do that? Somebody that knows their shit good enough, that's qualified for that office? Kamala Harris ain't it. I'm sorry. Nobody in that party wants her in either, or you know what? It already would have been done. They would have brought her in a year ago to build her up for the election to get her reelected as the president. Ain't happening. So here's my thoughts on all of this. Are you watching this and buying it? I don't. Hey, are we Biden bashing tonight? Absolutely not, Ryan Gale. Why would you call this Biden bashing? I didn't bash him at all. I said I have a lot of compassion for him. I stood up at the very beginning and said he shouldn't have been put in as president. They've taken a guy that's too old and too cognitively impaired. It's not the age. You could have a 95-year-old in there if he was not cognitively impaired. I say, yeah, you missed the beginning. You'll have to go back and hear it. I'm talking about the condition he's in, and every day we see something new. And all I was saying at the beginning of this was that the White House, Kareem Jean-Pierre, everybody is making excuses. They are all gaslighting America by saying that Joe Biden's the smartest tack in the box, that he is the sharpest of them all. And maybe he has his moments, but why would you only do in private what everybody else is seeing that's around him? Oh, you should see him. Wouldn't you be putting that on public display if that's what he is and he's running against somebody to be reelected? So, Joe Biden, all I'm saying is the Democrats should be putting up somebody. They should have done it already. Give us, and I say us meaning Americans, give us somebody worth voting for. Not put anybody in there because you want to vote against somebody else. But if that's their only goal, if they're running Joe Biden, they're thinking they can put him in and they're gaslighting us all along the way because they think that's the only way to keep Trump from getting back into office. But you know what? People have caught on to it. It's a problem for the Democrats. So the Democrats have good people. There are good people. You might not agree with their political ideology, just like there are Democrats who believe that there are good Republicans, but they don't agree with their ideology. But there's certainly good people to run. Joe Biden ain't it. And this weekend's performances by him, the last week in France, in Italy, all the things, Joe Biden's got nothing left. And that's not a slam on Joe. That is a slam on the people who have kept him in when he should have been he shouldn't have even been run in the first place, but he should have been left with his legacy intact. You know what his legacy is going to be now? He had a legacy as the vice president of Obama, one of the most charming leftist presidents that ever made the office. For 8 years, he was that vice president. Legacy, it's there. Into his mid-70s. Relax. Retire. They dragged him in somehow. They bribed him. He bribed his wife, whatever they had to do. And Ryan says, I'm sure there are better Dems to run, but incumbents always get special treatment. But what if the incumbent is Donald Trump was an incumbent? They wanted to impeach him. They did twice. And twice the Senate vacated it. That's a totally different story. So my whole thing is, if you watch this, you see a president in decline. A man who is in decline, which is proving to us one thing. The government can either be run without a president, or they are gaslighting us and they're running it in desperation just to try to make it to the finish line so they can pull him. If Biden, let's say scenario, Biden wins the election in November, 4.5 months from now. Let's say he wins. How long do you think they'll keep him in office before they pull him and have Kamala step up in his place? A week? 2 weeks? 30 days? Right now, the left knows, Democrats know, the whole country knows they've been gaslighting us and lying to us about Biden. What do you do about that? That's the problem. Ryan, you say that Trump seems like his mind is going to. I've heard people say that. Did you watch his speech in Detroit? I watched him for 2 hours making his speech in Detroit over the weekend. I didn't see any issues. There was a sharp man who was comedic, and at the same, and then the things that the Democrats are saying, well, look, Trump slipped here. You got to look at that, and you got to look at the tape, and then you got to look at, if you were there watching it, you'd say, that's not what happened. That wasn't a slip. That was when he had his 30-second blank thing. Somebody was talking to him. So these are the things they don't say because they're grasping straws to say Trump is slipping. He's not. He's sharper than anybody. And if Trump wasn't sharp, I wouldn't support him. I can tell you that. I would have supported somebody else. So, and don't worry about that, Ryan. I'm not ganging up on you about that. Trump is not slipping. If you think he's slipping, you are not paying attention. You're listening to what people are saying. You're not watching what's actually happening. This is my big complaint about this. I have friends that every day post on their social medias, they post crap about Trump. Today, I saw one that said something about, why don't you go into the office and try telling the people in your office that call a woman a horse face or somebody, or mock a handicapped person, or grab somebody by the pussy. And, we have a candidate that's running. These things are all on camera. And I see posts like that from this friend of mine almost every day. And I say, I haven't once seen you say something positive about the guy that's running for your party. Why don't you stop slamming the other guy with crap like that barroom brawling talk? Why don't you tell me all the good points about your candidate? Instead, sell me on your candidate. Because when you're doing what he's doing, you're only preaching to your own choir that already doesn't like Trump. Nothing to it. Yeah, the debate should be a good one if Joe can even show up for it. I have a theory that Joe offered that and did the mocking thing, which, by the way, if you counted it, the breaks, that 30-second video of Joe Biden's, took 17 takes and 17 different cuts in order for him to make that 30-second statement challenging Trump. That's because he's not got the mind to do it. And I feel bad for him. I actually feel bad for good friends of mine who are Democrats or leftists who are supporting him because they believe the bullshit coming out of the White House. Support somebody who's going to do something good for your country. Enough. This isn't a political show today, and I made it into one for almost the first half of the first hour. So, but here's what I want to ask you. Is life kicking the shit out of you? Let me ask you, as part of that, are politics kicking the shit out of you on top of it? Yeah, Ryan Gale, I'm all for that. Clone George Washington. Let's do it. Who knows if he'd turn out to be the same guy, though? What if he turned out to be something different? George Washington, or anyway, I know you're saying it a little lightheartedly, but think about it from even a science fiction standpoint. If we could do that, wouldn't it be the upbringing he had combined with his experiences that made him into the man he was? As opposed to, but I know what you mean. Let's clone George Washington. Wouldn't that be nice? I get that. They have his DNA. It was sent into space. Well, they could go retrieve it, I guess. It'd be like another Armageddon movie, retrieving Washington's DNA. You know? Call it Potomac instead of Armageddon. Or call it Mount Vernon, the mission to space to retrieve George Washington's DNA. Yeah, have him grow up in Colonial Williamsburg. I would love to go to Colonial Williamsburg. My daughters were just there last week, or weekend, 10 days ago, something like that. One of my daughters there, her husband's family, they all went to Colonial Williamsburg for a few days. I want to go do that again. I haven't done that in years. Rainey and I went in 2007 for a day. You got to go. You got to go do the whole historic triangle. Williamsburg to Jamestown to Yorktown. There's a big tour thing that's all set up to do that over a week or 2 weeks, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to do that. I think that would be fine. And so getting into life kicking the shit out of us. You know, the reason I don't like to do whole shows dedicated to politics anymore? Politics has kicked the shit out of me. Tired of it. I'm tired of it because every day there's somebody lying to you, or somebody who is gaslighting you, or somebody who's complaining about this or that or the other thing. I'm so tired. I just want to see, and I'm not even talking about the election season. I want to see Americans stop getting the shit kicked out of them. And, I have friends who said, my house just doubled in price. Oh, fantastic. Who's going to buy it? People are getting the shit kicked out of them. So, yeah, Richmond is cool too. I'd like to go see that. For all the Confederate monuments that are left. Well, you can't be a true American and allow there to be Confederate monuments. Hell no. That's another thing that pisses me off. So, Julius Caesar has a lot of monuments too. We didn't tear those down. Of course, that's in Italy. They did deface a statue of George Washington, though. Shows you they don't know what the hell they're doing. It's just something to do. Go south, says Field Guy. So when life kicks the shit out of you, what do? I once had a CEO of an advertising agency that while he called me back in after I had a round of interviews with him and his staff. And he says, well, you know what? I'm going to hire you. And I said, fantastic. And he said, well, you know why? He says, because you come across as a guy that hasn't had life kick the shit out of him yet. And I said, well, hopefully not yet. Now, I've had the shit kicked out of me a lot since then. That was in 1997 when that was said to me. I was 37 years old at the time. I'm now 63. And so I am, not double that age yet, but I'm close enough. And sometimes life deals you things, what are the things that are indicative of life having kicked the shit out of you? Would it be relationships? How many of you are married? How many of you are divorced? How many have been married or divorced more than once? How many of you have had death of a spouse? How many of you have had death of a child? Death of a brother? Death of another family member? And the first time is bad enough. How many of you have had that happen more than once? How many of you have lost a job? How many of you have just start going down that list and make a bullet point and say, not to make a negative list, but make a bullet point list in your mind and go, well, this is how life has kicked the shit out of me. And the question I ask you is, what is your resilience level? What happened to you when you were a child that you've had to bounce back from? What happened as adults that you've had to bounce back from? And Chuck Thurston said, George Washington owned slaves and ran a brewery. From what I've read, he treated his slaves pretty well. He did. And he wanted his wife to release them all when he died. You know why George couldn't release his slaves? Because he lived in an economy and a world economy where slavery was used everywhere. It was in every country. And it was only the enlightened, like our founding fathers and people in Great Britain went before us, but only the enlightened who said, you know what? We can't do this. We can't enslave other human beings. George Washington was one of them. Thomas Jefferson was one of them too, and he wrote about it, but he never released his slaves. Benjamin Franklin, who once owned 2 slaves, but became a noted abolitionist, noted in his will that his children got nothing if they still owned slaves. Admirable. So yeah, that was the era. We wouldn't do that now. We wouldn't go, hey, to my children, you don't get the inheritance if you own slaves. It doesn't make any sense anymore. It was a different world 250 years ago. Anyway, that aside, talking about getting the shit kicked around, sometimes life will kick you. It'll kick you around, but sooner or later you'll realize you're not just a survivor, you're a warrior. And you're stronger than anything life throws your way. How many of you here, I look at Mermania. That's my friend Daniel Craig. I like to say he's James Bond, but different Daniel Craig. I look at Leslie over there in the chat room, Ryan Gale, Randall Flagg, Chuck Thurston, Barbie D. How many of us have not had things where we go, I just got the shit kicked out of me? Lucky Stone. Same for you. Lucky Stone says, my Democrat family says Biden is better than the alternative. There's nothing he can do to change that. It's gross. And you know what? Biden is not better than the alternative. Somebody asked me today, oh yeah, what were the accomplishments Trump ever did? I'll make a show out of that. And I want all of you who don't like Trump to show up so you can listen to them. I went through it. It's a huge list of things he did, and many things you didn't even know he did. Because we were so busy having to deal with Russiagate and impeachments. And do you know none of that was over the things he was working on? That was all over stuff that they trumped up, pardon the pun. Enough. I'm done talking about the politics stuff. I want to get back into this. I will, Kelly. I'll do that. Because I've got it all. It's all fresh on my computer. because I looked it up for somebody today. No matter how positive we can be in life, how healthy we live, how much good scotch like Chuck Thurston has, and he's retired in his trailer. He's got a traveling camper and his scotch and whatever. And anybody else out there, no matter how much kindness or generosity, I think of Leslie, generosity and kindness. I think of all of you. I can't name you all for each attribute here, but you know where I'm going with this. No matter how much kindness, generosity, fairness that we practice. Ryan Gale, by the way, is a cool man. I love him. I admire his writing and his talents. We still have to have you on, Ryan, to talk about your latest book. But I disagree with him politically. But I would say Ryan just isn't looking in the right places or listening to the right. He'd probably say that about me. But we still like each other. We still respect each other. So no matter how all this stuff, shit happens. And to all of us, it happens. And suddenly we find ourselves juggling more balls than it seems humanly possible to juggle. And I've had my share. We've all lost people, I've mentioned. The hardest one for me was Dave, which is we're coming up on a year anniversary of his death. That was the hardest one for me, despite having lost other people. I've not lost my mother. I've not lost my father. I lost my grandfather when I was 35, and we were close, but it was different. I lost my mother from another brother, very dear friend of my mom's and my family's, David Smith, if you remember, that was 10 years ago. That was tough. Randall doesn't juggle balls. That's good to know, Randall. So, but we have had deaths. We get those biggies that come along like that, like almost every decade in our adult lives. Something happens. So the older you get, the more you start accumulating of the big ones. Although we're littered with all kinds of little tragedies, little quote unquote tragedies and butt kickings along the way. Those are the things that knock the wind out of us. They plunge us sometimes into this unspeakable darkness and despair. And they bring us maybe face to face with our own fears. I know when Uncle Dave died, this doesn't sound like a long time. If you remember, I couldn't do this show for a week. And that's when I was doing it every day. I found it very hard to come back into it. It was very hard on me. It was very hard on my son, Sam. It was hard on my kids, my younger kids, in different ways. That stuff takes the wind out of you. And I know what not knowing how to go on feels like. I know Leslie does. I know many in this chat room do. Many who listens to this show. Chuck Thurston says, after 2 years from her death, we're finally getting a probate closure on my sister's estate. That's the legal side of it. But imagine all the crap Chuck and his family have had to go through up to this point. My wife lost her grandmother over 2 years ago now. That was devastating to her because they were so very close. And so we go through these things, yet somehow we find ways to go on, get through. I don't know how many of us out there are listening to this where we say, oh, I only look like I'm going on. I'm not making it some days. And I know some people who are so overwhelmed with, we say it nicely and say it's the darknesses of life that happen to us, the tragedies. I call in the vernacular, you can say we get the shit kicked out of us or the breath taken away. And yet somehow we move on and we get through. Some of us fake it. We hear that whole fake it till you make it, which I don't care if anybody doesn't like that. That's probably the greatest truth. There's many times because we're not islands, we're not isolated. We have spouses or we have families or we have loved ones, we have children. If we've lost a child, we have other children. We have to keep going on for those people, for the things that we need to do in our lives. And I used to see myself in certain areas because of the own abuses I went through when I was a child, to which I don't camp at, so don't get me wrong with that. You know already, I don't camp back there. I make reference of it to say this is where I've come from. This is what shaped who I am. But I used to see myself through all the shit of life as a survivor, able to bear this great pain and live through the suffering until things get better. That's a quality and a strength for sure. And it's an acceptance of what's happened to you. And it's an inner, maybe quiet determination to still want to live and move on and do your things despite it all. And that's one way of not giving up and making it through. I'm not going to give up. I'll be damned if I let these things bowl me over. Chuck Thurston just said, but do people who live an easy life learn from a lack of hardship? We kind of asked that the other night in the captain's cabin, or was it Sunday morning? I can't remember when I had Jason on and Sarah was in, and I think Heather White was here, and Field Guy was there. Bauer, I think, was there for a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. But we asked some of the same questions. More recently, though, I've been inspired to cultivate another quality. I've discovered this quality in myself. I can't say it was recently. It was less than. I want to say recently because it comes to the surface, and I'm doing it more and more these days. But something I've learned a while back is that in addition to all the suffering or all the resilience and the survivor mode that we go into, I found in addition to that, I have a fighting spirit. And I don't mean that to say, I'm a fighting spirit. Look at me. It's not that. It's to say, and some of those words are a bit sing-songy, but it's like this little book I've got sitting here. Where'd it go? Once again, it's gone. I had it here, but I had a little book. Oh, it's right here. The Art of War by Zun Shi. This is the little book version of it. Little tiny thing. All these things that you learn about, there's some old Chinese saying, I'm only going to weakly, feebly paraphrase it. Something about the gardener, the Chinese gardener. And he says, no, I'm a warrior, but I'm a gardener. But inside I have the warrior. So if I ever need to pull that out, I can. It's a weak paraphrase of that. Some of you may know what that saying is, but it's the same thing. It's like who made it famous more recently again was what's his name? The psychologist, conservative. He's from Canada and he kind of talks like this, and he's Beard, and he's Ben Shapiro has had him on. I think he's been on Ben Shapiro's network with his own show. Why am I'm skipping on his name for some reason. You'll know who he is as soon as his name comes to me. But he said the problem with men nowadays is they are no longer dangerous. He said, you need to be dangerous. Well, what's that? Some people, why would a man need to be dangerous? He says, not to act dangerously all the time, but to live a normal, wonderful, blessed life. But you need to be dangerous so that those who would overcome you or overtake you or attack you know that that danger is down below, and you could pull that out at any time you wanted to. Being there, Mermania. Yeah. The quote about a gardener. I'm Chauncey Gardner. I'm the gardener. I like to watch. Yes, Peter Sellers. That was one of his, I think it was his last movie. It had to come out around 1979 or 1980. Good movie. If you've never seen it, The Gardener, I think is it called The Gardener? Being There. I'm sorry, Being There. Yeah, you already said that. So, being dangerous means you've got the ability inside you to do what needs doing if you have to do it, but you keep it subdued until you have to use it. I don't have to be dangerous every day. But I will say, I might not be a 10-time black belt in Taekwondo as my older brother. I might not be a guns expert. I might not be a former Navy SEAL, but I will tell you something. I'm dangerous. Dangerous if I need to be. So we all have a fighting spirit. Is this a revelation to some of you that you have a fighting spirit? We all have got one. Instead of hearing what life throws at me, I can consciously choose to not let it beat me. That I can be a warrior as well as a survivor. I've got stuff that's going on right now. I have life beating the shit out of me right now. My profession I've been in for 40 years. You think back to when robotic or automated equipment started taking away people's factory or assembly line jobs. I've been an artist my whole life, and now I've got AI and kids overseas that will compete for every single job that's out there, 300 to 500 of them, saying I can do that for $5 a piece or $10 a piece when I charge 400 or 450, and that was a good price to illustrate a book. They're out there, and it's going to take a while for people to learn that just because you know AI doesn't mean you're an artist. You can produce good pictures in 1 minute or 60 seconds or so, but that doesn't mean you can be consistent in a book. But it's out there. That's stealing my work. So I have never had loss of more work because somebody who will charge $10 over in Pakistan and just wants the American dollar can get his American dollar by going on AI and doing in 15, 20 minutes what it takes me 4 weeks to do by illustration. So, boom, it's there. So fighting is a way to say I can be a warrior as well as a survivor. Fighting's a way of standing up to your inner voice of discouragement, your inner voice of resignation, a decision to show up and do what you can do, even when it's tough and you don't want to give up, and you want to give up. Kelly means warrior. That's right, Kelly Moran. Moran, I said. I hope that didn't come across wrong. Don't mishear me. Chuck Thurston said, I was told once the mark of a warrior isn't to win the fight, but to reach back and help the next guy forward. I think that's part of being a warrior. You go into battle and say, you're a warrior. Now, don't win the fight, just help the next guy win his. That only works in part. I think the older, wiser warrior can help the younger warriors. But you attain warrior status, I think, by proving that you've got what it takes to fight the fight that needs to be fought. Fighting's a way of standing up to your inner voice of discouragement and resignation. It's a decision to show up, being there, Daniel Craig. Show up and be there and do what you can, even when it's tough and you want to give up. And I'm learning that all the time. I still have to learn that. Do you know it has been about 6 weeks since I have had a paying project come in the door? My client list is drying up because they're using other resources now. And there's a lot more detail to it than that. But my client list dries up. So I've got to look at new ways. Why do you think I'm doing the tattooing now? You can't do tattooing with AI. Pretty soon they'll develop a AI robot or cyborg that's going to be able to tattoo better than anybody else. And then all the tattoo artists are going to take it out. But that's why, because it's still what I do. And I still have work, little projects, but little projects. So life kicks the shit out of you. What do? You show up and you retain your warrior status and you make it work. My fighting spirit is a great resource I have in my toolbox for life. I can call it up when I need it. It adds to my resilience, my self-reliance when life gets tough. And I also find that it comes in handy when I want to make changes for the better in my life. I've been doing all kinds of tarot readings on my TikTok lately. This has all been coming up for 2 weeks. This same message over and over again that really boils down to these points. But struggle with the unforeseen complexities of or resistance to what I want to do is what happens when I try to make better changes. Now, don't get me wrong. Fight is not always called for when life gets tough, as Chuck even referred to. Yeah, I know they have tattoo machines, Mermania. Shut up. I know this. Which would you rather have tattoo you, a machine or a person? An artist. So, but you know what will happen? They'll develop something where some mindless non-artist, non-tattooer that's never done it before over in some third world country can get on a computer and set it up and tattoo somebody in charge. I'll do that for $10 when you pay $850 at a tattoo artist. That's exactly what's going to happen one of these days. Chuck Thurston. I got to put that one up. My tarot cards always tell me not to play poker. But ching. That's pretty good. But fight isn't always the right thing to do every time. Sometimes we need to let ourselves be sad, to be down, to be angry, to be pissed off before we can find an appropriate response to what happened to us. When we've pushed ourselves too hard, we might need to give ourselves the space to rest or even be ill for a while, finding our way to heal. And sometimes all we can do is indeed hang in there and survive as best we can. And sometimes we need to let go of the fight, allowing things to happen as they will and going with the flow of things in life. But fighting is called for when something important is at stake. When you need to speak up for yourself or for someone else or for something that really matters to you. Fight comes when you need to speak up. When you want to save a significant relationship. You want to save a marriage. Sometimes fighting is worth it. Rainey and I could have been dead a long time ago and not together. But I started fighting for it, and so did she. You fight for it. It's not always a bed of roses, but you fight for what you want. And you fight for what really matters to you. When you want to save a significant relationship that you're on the verge of losing, when you're facing a critical illness, or when you need to stand up to the voices inside you that make you want to shrink away and disappear when it's important to stay and be seen or heard. You could bring it into the political realm and say, when you believe that the other guy is destroying your country, do you stand up and defend your country for the guy that you want? I'm not plugging any names into that because there are people from different sides in there. But when you fight for something, make sure you're fighting with the right in mind, not just your preference. Fighting is required when something is at stake. And recently I fought a lot more than ever before, and consciously do it. I fought here. I fought for living the creative and passionate life that I'm called to live. I don't want that to sound sing-songy, but it's true. For me and my professional craft, my professional practice to continue to evolve and grow, I have to fight for it. For my writing to find a place in the world, I need to fight for that. It's not always, it's a big struggle that I'm fighting. I got to fight and put my best foot forward and strive and be the warrior I need to be to make those things happen. I don't like to write just for the sake of writing. So you haven't seen a full book come out of me for a while. I want to write because it has meaning. And there's depth to it. And it means something to the people who read it. I want to evolve, and I want people who read my work to evolve in that little bit of a sense of evolution. If you'd like some inspiration to discover and cultivate your own fighting spirit, I'm going to offer you 6 different things. I'm sure there's more, but here's 6 ways to find the fight in yourself. And these strategies sometimes help me when I don't want to give in to the temptation to throw in the towel too soon. Just the other day, maybe this doesn't mean anything to most of you. It means something to me. The other day, I once again looked at Rainey and said, I'm just going to quit. I'm going to quit radio. I shouldn't be doing this anymore. I have to focus on the things that I need to focus on, and I'm spending too much time. And but it was in a moment of feeling discouraged about some things, and so I keep it up. It's not the same as the losses that it's a loss to me. It's a thing of mine. But when I need to keep going sometimes, even though it's tough, I need to stand up for what really matters to me. I hope you'll find some of these things helpful. The first one, number 1 of 6, it's going to sound so cliche and so, rah, 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 sis, boom, bah type of crap. But number 1 is, you can do this. Who was the guy that used to sell his videos on workouts? Tony Scott? This was decades ago, 20 years ago, maybe 30. You can do it, he'd always say. He had long blonde hair, wavy, and big yellow leotards. So 38 seconds. What did I get there? 38 seconds from Steph Cuervo Queen. 13, she says. What am I missing? 3. Oh, you're counting off a game, a timer. So, make you can do this, or I can do this, your mantra. Repeating it to yourself, even aloud, When you feel discouraged, strengthen yourself in every way possible by exercising, meditating, which we talked about many times, arming yourself with knowledge and support. And one thing I don't like about, like in politics again, just as an example, I hear a lot of people saying a lot of bad things about the guy I support. And I'm like, are you armed with any real knowledge? Or are you pulling somebody's meme just because you don't like that guy? I told the guy today, do you know how to think critically? I asked him, I should say. And I wasn't in a big, long fight with him. I just said, the things you're saying just proves your bias to me. Come out and at least half-heartedly look like you can have a decent discussion. And then, you know what? That turned him a little bit. He did. And he said, I still totally disagree with you. He says, but at least look at this. We had a decent discussion. I said, see, it's possible, isn't it? And we both disagree. Arm yourself with knowledge. That's going to help you believe you really can handle what's coming. I remember the time when it became clear that I wasn't going to be able to avoid getting heart surgery. Wasn't a long gap in there. But for me, it was a radical operation, even though these guys pump them in and out every day. The surgeons were going to cut into my body. They're going to cut open my chest and break into it. Cut open my sternum. I know you've all seen this, but look at that. You probably can't see it in the bright light. There it is. I still have the scar going from here all the way up to here. And I've got discoloration. This stuff has been there since the surgery. That right there. And little bristly things all over the place from this. And so I knew that was coming. And I knew I had to do that. And I didn't have a long time to process it. But the fact that I was going to get cut open, my kids were there, my wife was there. Consciousness, thoughts, my reasoning, my story, my memories. Now, at the beginning of that, I thought, oh, well, I guess I got to go in and get heart surgery. And they put me under. And I didn't notice a thing until I woke up. And then I was in the hospital for a week with tubes, not only running up my penis, but into my stomach, into my chest cavity. I remember when they had to pull those out, the nurse put 2 fingers around the tube and she goes, you ready for this? And she goes, about that speed. And I could feel it from up here go, I went, ow, like that. Okay. When that was all done, it was about a year later, I had that first big problem. Not really a heart attack, but a small, everything was off. And the first thing on my mind was the dread of having to go through that again. Even though the first time I wasn't dreading it. I knew it had to be done, and okay, here we go. See you on the other side. They're putting me under. But knowing what it was like, the recovery was like, and going through that afterwards was not something I ever wanted to repeat again. And so how do you find the strength to get through those kinds of things? Your fighting spirit kicks in. I was supposed to get physically fit and strong, and I didn't. I had a bad hip after that, and I couldn't even exercise. I found it very hard to do anything. I put on 50 pounds after my heart surgery from sitting around, and then I had a year later my hip surgery. And it was just dumb. My life became dumb. I became discouraged. My fighting spirit didn't kick in until a long time later over this stuff. You have to respond to our challenges this way. You have to discover a voice within that speaks to you and says, you can do this. And you speak it facing the gales of Sorry, Ryan. Just borrowing your last name. The gales of the storm, the gales of your fears, of your growing, increasingly loud, strong, and determined passions to be the warrior. That's point one. You can do it. Point two, don't let it beat you. And you notice these are all cognitive things that we do. Nobody's doing it for us. Yeah, in Randall Flagg, I dread a colonoscopy too. I don't like it. You got to fast and you got to drink all that stuff and then you got to poop. It's not even pooping. It's draining out your butt. So when adversity strikes you, we're faced with a stark choice. We can either let it beat us or not. That's your choice. You got to choose which one. You got to ask yourself, who's the boss? Me or this challenge? I say an awful lot when I do tarot readings, when we've talked on this show, especially in tarot readings. Like today, we had the Devil card in one of my daily readings today. And the Devil card, in part, says to you, either you will beat this thing or this thing will beat you. Conquer it or it will conquer you. You've heard me say that before. Who's the boss here? Me or the challenge? And maybe it's true that hardship builds character, like Chuck Thurston said earlier. Hardship does build our character. If you never have it tough, you've never needed to fight. And you never learn how. And you never build that fighting muscle. Why do you think we have certain things come our way? If you are a person of faith and you believe God is the one that allows that to happen to you, we can all say, God does that to develop who he needs me to be or who I need to be or to prepare me for this or that in life. I've gone through enough hardships that I go, oh, crap. What the hell is going to happen to me in the near future? That I'm being prepared for something. If what's going on with me over the last 40 years is preparation for something, I don't want to know what it is. I got to tell you. Number 3, why do we fail? I'm sorry, fall. Why do we fall? I'm not wearing my glasses, so I'm looking at my notes and it looked like FAIL. I could put my glasses on, but I don't like wearing them on the radio because, like this, they reflect the screen. So I don't like doing that. You get just these flashes of white. Why do we fall? This is a line from the film Batman Begins. It's how Batman's father consoles his son when he's had a setback. Why do we fall? He asks him. And when the boy doesn't have an answer, the father says, so we can learn how to stand up again. So whether you're Batman or a fan of Batman, remind yourself of this when you're down and feel like giving up. Then you find your fight and you stand up again. Why do we fall? We fall so we have the opportunity to stand back up, not lay down. Are you going to lay there or are you going to stand up? Sometimes we have to ask ourselves that question. Number 4, keep trying intelligently. They say that Rome wasn't built in a day. Old cliche. And equally, you might not resolve a complex or challenging situation in one single day. It might take several attempts, maybe even several years to find your way through your shit. And even if one attempt fails or falls, it's important to keep trying, but you keep trying intelligently. You have to ask yourself what you can learn from the previous attempt. And you know what? Sometimes that's hard to do because you're sitting in the middle of it, in the middle of getting the shit kicked out of you, for the umpteenth time, and we're licking our wounds, or we're retreating into the corner, or we're depressed or discouraged, that's not usually when we ask ourselves what did I learn, Dorothy? What did you learn, Dorothy? You've had the power all along. Interesting, huh? Ain't that the truth, Randall Flagg? In the chat room, he says Rome was built faster than the time it takes to fill potholes these days. Ain't that the truth? So, what worked? What didn't, you have to ask yourself? What do you need to do differently this time? Then you try again. And you use those insights. The story goes that Thomas Edison tried and rejected 10,000 combinations of material before he came up with a workable light bulb. Before he came up with stealing the patent from Tesla. I don't know if that's what happened. I tried 10,000 times before I actually was able to buy the copyright out from somebody. Know that your failed attempts are the stepping stones that are going to ultimately lead you to where you want to be. Number 5, keep showing up. Keep being there. Keep showing up. Always show up whenever possible. I know of somebody that had a fairly debilitating, not clearly diagnosed illness for years. Yet she made a point always to show up whenever possible, in whatever way she can, to work, to sing, to practices and rehearsals, to family activities. She dresses up, puts on her makeup, and when she's too weak to be there for the real world, in the real world, she's there online, writing, sharing her beautiful reflections about life. If that's not the fighting spirit and truly inspiring, I don't know what is. So if you're struggling to, ask yourself, in what ways, however small, can I keep showing up? I have friends that have had good reason to never want to show up again. They're down and they don't know if they can get back up, but they do. I've got my friend who went through the rape accusation 4 years ago. It was during the Kavanaugh hearings, the Me Too movement at its height, or inception even. And as you all know, because I've told the story before, he went through this and finally got his day in court and won. Was completely acquitted. With prejudice. And he's a creative, he's a writer, he's a photographer, he's an actor. He's gone from being what you could call damn near upper middle class rich to not having that to fall back on. But you know what he's got to fall back on? His skills, his warrior spirit, his talent. And they're doing. Last point, number 6, insist and persist. This was one of my methods for getting stuff done when I felt overly challenged or the rug's being pulled out. You'd be friendly, charming, great to work with, but it wouldn't go away until the work that needed doing was done and people had made the contribution that was necessary. You're like a dog with a bone at that point. So insisting and persisting serves us well when life gets challenging for us. You have to use to understand what's going on. Find the help you need and try different ways of responding to what's happening. And you won't stop until you're through, until you're done and finished and you've completed the task. Perhaps that's one of the most the kind of stubbornness that's worth cultivating. If you've got kids, I've got 3 kids upstairs, 14, 12, and 9. I've got 3 older kids, as you know, twins who are 32 and a son who's 23. You keep fighting for them. You keep cultivating what you want them to be. My son Sam is a prime example of that, a shining example of that. Comes from getting into trouble in his teens to being somebody that is worthwhile to himself and to the people around him. That's a stubbornness worth cultivating. So my fighting spirit is a hello, useful. My mouth wanted to say youthful. It's like a youthful string. It's a useful string to my bow of life skills. And I'm grateful for the experiences that have come along to help me discover and hone it. So when life piles the challenges and you're pushed to the edge, where and how do you find your fighting spirit? How do you go on? This is what you have to ask yourself and cultivate that. And sometimes there's some things I saw from somebody that I don't necessarily fully endorse all of these. I'd use maybe different words or different actions, but this person said, life is hard for everyone in different ways. And at certain points in times, it can be outright horrible. And this being said, here's some tips. When life is kicking your ass. And the first point of this person, now, this was a female who wrote this. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just from a female perspective. Her first point, how do you deal with cry? Now, that might not be my first point, but stop and think about that for a second. How many of us, when we're facing these difficulties, we stop and we go, oh, Jesus. And even guys, the first thing you want to do is shed a tear. I got to get this out of me or it's going to eat me alive. Sometimes a good cry is necessary to move on from a failure and to keep pushing. I don't always cry about failures, but I'll grit my teeth and set my jaw and want to move forward. It's like that favorite clip that my son Sam likes. He grew up with Treasure Planet. And animated version set in science fiction outer space. And there's a quote where, and I've played this for you before and we've talked about it before, but there's a quote where Jim Hawkins is responsible for somebody dying on the ship and something happened and he feels he's responsible. Let's put it that way. Feels he's responsible. And it was an accident that took place. And he's ready to give up. And Silver says, you see this big hand come out and take Hawkins by the shoulder and turn him around. He says, now you listen to me. Jim Hawkins, he says, you listen to me. He says, you've got the makings of greatness in you, but you got to take the helm and chart your own course. Stick to it, no matter the squalls. And when the time comes, you'll get the chance to really test the cut of your sails, show what you're made of. And, well, I hope I'm there, catching some of the light coming off you that day. That's something, when I first saw that, it made me cry. Makes my son cry. So, because it's a wonderful sentiment. So crying's okay. Sometimes you need to do that when you're spiraling out of control. You got to take control of your space to gain a sense of what it means to get that control back. It's the next one, declutter. I'm one of those people where my studio, my rooms, they reflect the current state of my life. If my studio is a god-awful disaster and a mess, 9/10 of my life is also a mess, and I need to get it together fast. Sometimes when life's doing me dirty, kicking me in the nads, I get a release out of throwing away the things that I don't need and straightening up my studio. Something about cleaning off my desk and my studio out there. Now, my studio is, my daughters were here the other day, and they said, we were talking about my stuff. Look at this. Oh, there goes, I just knocked my light over. But look at my stuff. I got stuff all over this office. I got stuff right here, piled on my desk. The side, I got a 7-foot long desk here, so, but you can see, I got stuff everywhere. I got stuff over there. The other side. I got all of that stuff. I got shelves over there, cabinets over there. My tattooing stuff is all over there. In that dark part of the studio right now. So there are times where stuff's not going right. You know what I do? Just declutter a little bit. Field guy says, I cry, and I don't care who knows it. Boom. There you go. So decluttering, that's the second one this person came up with. Unplug. If anyone's familiar with sulking, scrolling through social media when you feel sad, people do that all the time. It doesn't help you feel any better, by the way. There's a clue. There's an epiphany for you. Sometimes it makes you feel worse. I find myself sometimes with social media, I'm looking at something, looking for something, and I scroll and scroll and scroll. Guess what? After about an hour sometimes, or I might be laying in bed. I'm tired, dog tired. I got my phone. I'm just scrolling, looking at stuff and reading stuff. And then I go, oh my God, I have just spent an hour and 8 minutes doing nothing but looking at videos or pictures, and it's not porn. It's regular stuff that's out there. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got to unplug this and put it away for the night. I value transparency. I value it with being transparent in front of you, my listeners, my friends. And when I'm going through a rough time, but sometimes the best thing to do is just let people know life's kicking you in the ass, kicking the shit out of you, and that you're going to take some time to unplug and disappear. I've been doing this sometimes lately. Sometimes when I don't do a show, because I got to unplug. So, write. You can write. Use your pen and paper. Use your mind. I've talked about journaling before. Write out your stuff. Exercise. That's a tough one, isn't it? I know. Who's got time to exercise when life is kicking you in the ass? Sounds contradictory, but exercise gives you endorphins. It's another way that you can practice control in an area of your life. When that area is out of control, you can control this by exercise. You'd be surprised at how much you feel better even after 15 to 20 minutes of exercise. Imagine an hour. When I was biking, it would take me 33, 34 minutes, it seemed it always came in at, to do 6 to 7 miles. So sometimes I'd do my course all over again, and I'm talking outdoor biking. I'd do my course that I had pre-laid out. I'd do it again. And I'd come back in about an hour total. I felt so good those days when I was doing that every single day. And then you got to learn to adjust. If what you're doing isn't working, adjust some things around you to see if something else is going to work. Life is a complicated thing, and sometimes even the most minor adjustments can have a butterfly effect on the quality of our lives. Make your adjustments. Adjust your mindset. Meditation. It's a good way to do that. It might be cliche, but it works. Got to find the positive things. And being grateful for them is going to help you in the hard times. Life's a piece of shit when you think of it. I don't remember all the words. But if you're chewing on life's gristle, just pucker up and whistle. And this'll be the way you make your day, or whatever the words are. So always look on the bright side of life. And I'd whistle it if I could. I have to, now that I've brought that up extemporaneously off the top of my head, always look on the bright side of life. These lyrics, they go like this. Here's the full lyrics. Some things in life are bad. They can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble. Give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best. And always look on the bright side of life. In the chorus. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten. And that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle. That's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. You're all whistling, aren't you? Always look on the bright side of life, the right side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your sin. Give the audience a grin. Enjoy it. It's your last chance anyhow. So always look on the bright side of life. It's just before you draw your terminal. Oh, always look on the bright side of death. Just before you draw your terminal breath. I screwed that line up. Because life's a piece of shit when you look at it. Life's a laugh and death's a joke, it's true. You'll see it's all a show. Keep 'em laughing as you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. And always look on the bright side of life. I mean, what have you got to lose? You know, you come from nothing. You're going back to nothing. What have you got? What have you lost? Nothing. Always look on the right side of life. Nothing will come from nothing, you know what they say. Cheer up, you old bugger. Come on, give us a grin. Always look on the right side of this is the lines being talked at the end of the movie when they're talking to Brian. They're all being crucified, by the way. There you are, you see. It's the end of the film. So that's it. So there's more lyrics, but it's the stuff talking over that. So that's always look on the bright side of life, on the right side of life. When life's a piece of gristle, when you're chewing on life's gristle, pucker up, give a whistle. So there you go, folks. We all have shit. We all get the shit kicked out of us in life. And we can all choose to stay down or get up. Eric Idle, yes, Randall Flagg. It's exactly who that was. Bring back Richard Simmons. Yeah, says Field. No, Field guy. Let's not. They're thinking of doing a movie about him. Who was going to play him? There was somebody that was going to play him. Now I can't think of who it is. Oh, well, doesn't matter. So there you go. We've got choices. We can let life kick the shit out of us, or we can overcome it. We can be dangerous. We can fight as warriors for where we know we need to be. So I encourage you to do the same. Let's take a little break. I'm going to step out of here for a minute, get a drink, and we'll come back with the captain's cabin for a little bit till 11 o'clock. So all you sit tight, hold your spot, don't go away, and we'll be right back. Live long and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep,
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave. Well, welcome to the captain's cabin, everyone. We have about 22 minutes left before this show is over. I went a little long with the show, but you know what? Being off the radio format leaves me free to do this format. And I think if we took calls during the show or had question and answer times and things like that, we could easily make a 3-hour show out of this every day. But then that would be my full-time job, believe it or not. So that's why we don't do that now. So this is open to callers. I've already got a field guy waiting in the wings. And so let me copy this link here. I'm going to paste it into the chat room. If you want to join us here on the show, you can call into the studio with that link right there, and you'll be able to come in. So, what do you think? Let's get going. Let's talk a little bit. Field guy, how you doing?
I'm doing.
Right on. What's up?
Not much. Here, I'll start my cam.
Start your cam.
Oh,
Look at you, Hollywood. Wow. You wearing a stocking cap, a little knit cap?
nope.
Well, that's your hair. Okay. Cool.
That's how I comb my hair when I'm at work. I just
Right on.
what's left of it.
Yeah, same here. So,
got a little bit more, but it's disappearing every day. But so,
dude, yeah, give it another 30 years and we'll have nothing left. So,
I seize a
I'd like
machete.
to grow my hair back. I wish I had a pill I could take that would grow my hair back.
Bosley.
Remember that Star Trek 4, the movie with the whales, and they're in the hospital, and there's an old lady in the hallway, and Bones gives her a pill. He goes, "Here, take that."
Pills and my kidney grew back.
My kidney grew back. He gave me a pill, and my kidney grew back.
Fully functional. Fully functional.
Fully functional. Yeah. So I thought if I could ever find a genie in the bottle, I think the first thing I would wish for is how did I state that? And I said I'd have to say to the genie, now, wait, there's it's not just a single sentence wish. It's a long bullet pointed list. So stay with me before we do this. I want my body to be in the same physical or health shape it was in when I was 26. I want to be in the physical shape of when I was 30. And I want to go even a step beyond that. And I want to have finely honed muscles like a Greek god. But don't turn me into a marble statue. And Randall Flags, his hair is overrated. And I want all my hair back. And I want to be perfectly healthy. And I want the same for my wife. That's one wish. Can you do it, Genie? In one wish? He'll say, sure, I can do that. Do it. Boom. Done. So, could you imagine being in the kind of health and shape and physical fitness that you, not that necessarily we'd want to live forever, but that you wouldn't die of natural causes? You could die getting hit by a garbage truck, maybe, but you couldn't die from a natural cause, meaning your body wouldn't wear out and it's in perfect shape. Wouldn't that be cool? And you have all your hair,
Maybe.
too?
Possibly.
I think that'd be kind of neat.
That sounds like a Twilight Zone episode.
Sure is. Yeah, you gotta wait for the genie to come. Oh, you didn't say. No, I don't want tomfoolery with this. You know what I mean. And see the genie. You know what I mean. You know what I'm looking for. That's what I want. I will wish you free, like the cartoon Aladdin. I will wish you free with my third wish. If you do this and you understand exactly what I'm looking for here.
Oh, Aladdin. Wait.
Yeah. Uh-oh, you got something. You talking to me? Did you rub my lamp? What do you got? There it is. Mr. Aladdin, sir.
I don't have the game anymore, but I
What
have the...
would your pleasure be? So, other than Aladdin and Genie Wishes, what else is on your mind?
I don't know. I was trying to, I was thinking of what to say, but then I would just make up stuff along the way.
Sure. Why not?
I don't know. But life, going to your topic, I think life kicks everybody's ass at some point. Kind of has to. I think it gets kind of low to the point where, okay, it can't go much lower. It's got to go higher.
Yeah.
But
it can always go lower. That's the thing. People say, well, it can't get any worse than this. Oh, don't say that. It could.
Yes. Always could. It could rain.
Yeah.
Like it stormed here today.
Oh, yeah. It's been raining here for 4 days. So.
Oh, we got 5.5 inches of rain today.
Wow.
It flooded over here. Not by me, but it flooded. It's supposed to do it tomorrow, too.
Yeah, we've had it off and on. My grass in my front yard, the curb appeal of my lawn is about this deep now. It's like it was long at the middle of last week, and I said, we got to mow this lawn. Now it's rained Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with spots in between, but you can't mow even though it stops raining because the grass is soaking wet. All the mower does is push the grass over. It doesn't cut it. So,
well, I don't have to worry about my lawn too much. This place, the lawn in the back is small and the lawn in the front is small.
Yeah.
But I have to metal detect it because I'm always finding nickels and dimes everywhere. I'm like, I wonder if there's buried treasure.
That's cool. I was out when we had the 40-acre horse ranch. I was out in it wasn't the field, but we had this hillside that had trees in it that ran down the hill into our little valley we had there, and the horses were out there. There was a fence in between, a wire fence to keep them out in the pasture, but it was long grass, and there were old machine parts and things laying in the grass, and I went through and picked them all up, and I got one of those bush hogs, and I whacked down all the heavy-duty weeds and grass, and I'm raking it up, and I'm making it nice, and I built a little corral in there, a round ring kind of thing, and I used a post hole digger, and I dug 30 post holes with that, and I was digging a post hole out of this area I'd cleared. Nothing had been on it. I find a Indian head nickel. I said, wow, who lost that here and when? How long ago did somebody drop a Indian head nickel in the grass?
That would be a buffalo nickel.
Pasture?
Buffalo nickel.
Buffalo nickel, yeah.
The Indian head is the penny.
Oh, yeah, then it was... I thought it definitely had... It must have been a buffalo. And I'm picturing Indian, but it was a nickel. So,
well, buffalo nickel's got the Indian on front.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it had to be a buffalo nickel, Indian head on the one side. So that was pretty cool, I thought. Nice find. I'd like to get myself a metal detector.
I haven't found any with a metal detector. But that land, who knows how long that land's been there.
I'd like to get one and do that. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Oh, I have a metal
good
detector.
one. I don't want, a cheap chintzy one. And
The good ones are the good ones are like the Garrett ones are like you're looking at $600-$800 for the really, really good ones.
I know.
But you can get the one that I got. Like I got a generic one and it only cost me $199.
That's not bad.
Or you can go to Harbor Freight if they got those near you and get one for like
I want one of those machines where you can do LiDAR.
Yes.
Man.
How many bodies are in this property today?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh.
I spent a bulk of my day today trying to help my dad figure out his internet, his email. And my dad's 84, 85, and he's not internet savvy. He's not computer savvy. And Dad, if you're listening, I love you. This is just for the fun effect of it all, the story. But
I don't know you, so I can do that. No,
there were points where, the conversation. If you were just hearing my side, no, Dad, it's no, the send button. It's in the upper right. The upper right. No, not the upper right. No, that has nothing to do with going to that website. It's the upper right of your email window. No, not the main window for the email of the email that you're sending a response to. And then you'd start, and so that was it. And then I had to call his company. Found out he was getting charged. Here's my dad, 85. Doesn't do anything special. Doesn't build websites. He doesn't do anything weird. He's still got a ground phone, but he pays for his ground phone and his internet. They were charging him $177 a month.
Nah,
I said, Dad, you are being taken. Somebody signed you up for something you don't need. Elvis said, at least we don't need to look at Field Guide's trash can hat. Uh-oh.
He wants me to look at my hat
What
on.
did you provoke there, Elvis?
I gotta wear my hat.
Trash can hat. Let's see it. Oh.
True champion hat.
Wow. Trash can hat. So anyway, I call my dad's internet company, and I get somebody who doesn't speak much English as a first.
Hello there, sir. How are you doing today?
It was worse than that, and I felt like it was worse than trying to talk to an old 85-year-old man over the phone about trying to figure out his internet that I can't see his computer. And talking to this guy, he said, well, he pays $77 for his internet and $36 for his phone. I said, that's it? Yes. And so I went, let's see, 77 and 36. That's like $113. I said, 113 to 177 is a $58 difference. I said, what's the difference? What's going on? And, well, that is your government taxes. And I said, the government does not charge $58 for a $113 service. I said, that's half the amount in tax. And and so it went. This conversation took almost an hour. And I said, could you delineate for me what that extra $58 is comprised of? I have already told you it is government tax. I said, it is not tax. And I started getting a little fed up. I go, look, I'm a nice guy. I said, you're irritating me. I said, because it is not tax. Well, listen to me. And it came out that, okay, I signed into my dad's account. And I look at the readout. I go, I got it right here. I said, you don't have to answer the question anymore. Oh, I have found it for you. I said, don't read it. I said, I'll read it to you. This, and this. Tax was 53 cents, was federal government tax. And then state tax was comprised of several different taxes. It ended up to being about $7. So it was all the other stuff was all the services, the $3.99 a month that goes into, fixing outdoor lines, and it was all this stuff. And I said, why don't you just say your internet costs $177 a month with a phone, not $77 and $36. And he said, oh, look. I have found such a wonderful surprise for you. I have found a discount. And he gives us a discount. We got it worked on $45 off the top. So he's down to $132, which is a little better for internet and phone. That's still a lot, though. But he lives in the country, very rural. And so I said, that's better than $177. And I said, you just found that? I said, I'll bet you you knew that was there all the time. And then I said something like, so now that you found that discount, can we get him refunded for all the months he's been paying $177?
Oh,
No, he says, we cannot do that. So it was ridiculous. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Roger Rabbit. He says the joke is that the call center was in the USA, but staffed by 2024 DEI-based program. Yeah, exactly.
So I would have done this. I would have been like, okay, well, screw you. What I do is if I don't get the answer after 3 minutes, I hang up and I just call someone else.
Yeah, you'll get another one.
Probably.
And I don't have a problem with immigrants to this country having jobs at all. I don't have a problem with them learning the language
just don't have
by being in a call center. But when you're in a call center, shouldn't you be able to speak the language fluently and really understand? Now, maybe he did in a test. Okay, this guy understands the language. But when it comes down to it, if I'm speaking vernacular, he's not going to pick up half of what I said, which is what I had to really dig down and speak as plain Midwestern as I could using regular words, and so he knew what I was talking about. So, yeah, it was rough.
They read off of a script. When you deviate off the script, they go, then they start to think, Then they start to think of stuff. And then, like when you ask him, what's that's taxes. He didn't know what you were talking about. He just kept repeating the same thing over and over.
And I got the same thing for another company. That was his company, which was Frontier Communications, but Ohio Frontier Communications. Then I had to call also, not Google, Yahoo, because Frontier's email now routes through Yahoo. So you got to call up a Yahoo account. And I had another person doing the same exact. It was a woman this time, but the same exact thing. Really struggling with the language and not able to answer my question. Long pauses. And then I could tell she was reading. I said, ma'am, I don't need you to read that to me. I said, I already know that. Well, I am supposed to read this to you. I said, I got it. You can just tell him you read it to me. I said, because I've heard this before. And I spent hours trying to help my dad get his email sorted out so he could open up. It all started because I sent him an email with a bunch of pictures and he couldn't find his email all of a sudden. Then we found out at the end of it all, his internet was off. Not because of bill payment, but we found out that, your internet's not working. And so he has to call and put in a call for that. So it was just all around. It was just a bad deal. So, my
internet is my internet company is terrible. They used to be right across where I used to live, right across the way, and then they moved down the way. I used to call them up, and they would give me these stupid things like, "Oh, sir." One time my internet went down, and they said, "Well, it's not our fault; it's your fault." And I said, "No, you stupid asshole, it's your fault." It's like, "Oh, do you know how to use a modem, sir? Do you know how to turn the button on and off?" Like they try to blame you.
Yes.
And they're never down here. Like when I used to call
I always tell people when I get a little testy, I always tell. Hi, Jeremy Hansen, by the way. I see you there.
Me?
I always tell them, look, you're catching me right now because I'm really irritated about this. I said, it's not you. I'm sure you're a wonderful person and all of that. But I said, you are the representative. So you are going to have to put up with me being really pissy right now because this is not working. And I get them laughing usually. I said, now you're laughing. I got more to unload on you. So here we go. So.
Oh, I don't even get that far. I used to curse them out over the phone. And that's all right, hold on. I go, because my company, like my cable company, they would have people in West Virginia, Florida, I think Wyoming was another one. I'd say, where are you based at? Wyoming. I go, well, shit, I can't come to Wyoming. Hold on.
Yeah.
I would go to the office and say, well, these people on the phone are morons. Because it was literally right down the street before they moved on the other side of town. I would walk in the office and I'm just like, yeah, y'all don't know. Why is my bill ... It's crazy. They'd be like, oh, you're cursing out the people. Yeah, because they're idiots. They can't speak English.
Then I get the advertisers will do that, Hello, my name is Bob. I am calling for Robert Scott. I go, I said, I can maybe find him for you. Or I tell them sometimes there's nobody here by that name.
Never heard of him before. Call back later when I'll tell you again he's not here. Call back
later. And then one of them was the tax scam. Or they still do this, I think. They're
I get like, that at my work all the time.
I'm from the government, and we're going to send somebody out to arrest you if you don't pay this fine right now. Fine. I don't even remember what the fine is.
Just tell them, do what I do. Oh, that's really funny because I just happen to be a police officer, and I know
I'm a police officer.
As soon as you say that, click. Or one time they did that online.
But I'll say, when they tell me that, I go, oh. I said, well, send them over. I'd love to have them show me the paperwork. And we just get into arguments that go on and on. And
I wish I could remember the video. They did that online, and they called up. They actually got a police station, and it was a lady, a lieutenant. I forget her name, and she was playing along the whole thing. I think it was like in Illinois or something. And she goes, "Oh, that's really interesting." She goes, and she's recording. And she goes, "By the way, do you know that you actually called the police department and everything you said was completely false? And by the way, this is being recorded just to let you know."
Nice.
Click. And she goes, I wonder why they hung up. Let's call them back.
Gosh, why did you hang up?
She called them back.
You were from the government.
She called them back and she's like, yeah, I'm waiting for the tax people to come to my house. And they go, well, what's your name, ma'am? I'm Lieutenant, whatever her name was, from the so-and-so police department. And they were like, don't ever call here again. Click.
Yeah. I've had some of them tell me when I challenge them a bit, they'll call and I need to talk to Scott Roberts about your this and that. And I go, well, I don't think that that's real or this or then. They go, fuck you. And they hang up on me. I go, wow, there's good customer service. I see you're out.
I call them back and I go, yeah, I'd like to talk to the asshole, please. Which one? The asshole told me to fuck off? Oh, it was you? Okay. Fuck you.
Click. It was you? Yeah. I got something for you. So I'll
get Mr. Asshole on him.
Yeah. That's that. It is what
there's this guy that comes into not my he comes in my streams lately, but he comes into my co-host streams, and he goes in the convenience store. He goes, "How you doing, Mr. Asshole?" Here, he knows everybody. He did that on He did it on my live stream last week. He goes, "Hey everybody, I'm Mr. Asshole. I'm just letting you know."
Nice.
And he goes, if anything goes wrong, just blame Mr. Asshole.
So I hear you found that hat in the trash can.
Well, no, that's what Elvis says. His Vikings suck.
Ha!
His Minnesota Vikings football team sucks ass, and he knows it. That's all.
Hey, I got to address this. Elderberry, I saw that. The Senate passed it. I know the House passed it. I didn't think it would make it past the Senate because of all the crap that's in the bill.
Never heard of. What does that mean exactly? I never heard about this.
It's selective service. It was just talked about last week. The House passed a bill just last Thursday.
For a draft?
For a draft. Well, the register for the draft. Everyone between 18 and 26.
Oh, well, I'm too old for that shit.
Well, yeah, we're too old anyway. And
I don't care. I registered when I was 18.
But I also read about it that was, hey, probably don't have to worry too much because the Senate won't pass it. It's got too much crap in it. It had stuff on abortion attached to it, amended to it, stuff on something else, and something else.
That's why it passed. They tack so much shit that they want on it. They don't care the original thing passed. They just want their own things to pass.
And it passed. It passed.
That's why it passed.
Well, you wonder why we have so much bullshit going on in our country. We need to have single item bills. Single item bills. We need to have line item veto. 20 minutes ago, Elderberry says.
They must have had a backroom deal. I'll suck your dick if you suck mine. Okay.
That's pretty much it.
It's like, yeah.
Well, on that happy note, it's past 11. We're going to call it quits for tonight. So we'll talk about that one probably on Wednesday. I'll bring that up. Folks, we're going to get out of here. Field Guy, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for the good conversation.
I try.
I'll see you next time.
Night, folks.
Tomorrow, there is going to be... Oh, no. Yeah, Elderberry, the House allowed it to pass last Thursday or Friday, and it had to go to the Senate. So hopefully the Senate hasn't passed that already. Aren't there other things in line ahead of it? I want to say to the Senate. Let me just double check that before we go. Senate passes selective service bill. House passes a defense bill. Yep, that will automatically register men between. That was the House. The House did that. June 13th, the Senate Armed Forces Committee. House Republicans passed the key military bill. I think it was just, I don't think it went through the Senate yet. Yeah. I don't think it went through the Senate yet. Which is good. Hopefully it will get killed. Selective service is okay. It's not going to hurt our country to have selective service. But the crap that was attached to that bill, ridiculous. So anyway, let's do this. Let's get out of here. So, folks, join me. Wendy and I are planning to do a Robertson tomorrow. That's 4 p.m. in the afternoon, 5 p.m. if you're out east. And then I'll be back on Wednesday and Friday with this show at 9 p.m. So you know where to find me. I'm always here. By the way, if you can go and like this in YouTube, that helps my numbers. I'm always asking, hey, if you want to throw a few bucks in, become a join and be a member over here, or join my Patreon, falls on flat ears. If you can't donate anything to the show, could you hit the like button? That'll help us. That'll be fantastic. It'll help this show, at least in a small way, to get more noticed. And I appreciate that. Then if you can, if you want to really help this show, hit the join button down below and become a member of this show. There's 3 ways you can become a member. That's more than subscribing. If you're not subscribed, subscribe first. Then you get the shows free every day. What the join button is say, I love this show enough, I'm going to put a little extra in. We got 3 different tiers that range from, I think it's 99 cents a month, $5 a month, and $15 a month for you diehards. And that will help us here. Imagine if we had, I don't know, 500 of you donate $15 a month. Imagine what a show could do with that kind of money coming in the door. Or over on Patreon, $4 a month. If we had 1,000 listeners, that's $4,000 a month coming in the door. Well, 2,000 of it would go to Uncle Sam, but you get the idea, the math. Do the math. Imagine the neat things we could do if that's there. And you would love it. The result, and what does it cost you? Cost of a cup of coffee a month. Boom. That's it. Consider it. Think about it. Look at it. It's already through the House of Representatives, Elderberry. That was last Thursday. I think it was Thursday. So we'll look into it. We'll talk about it next time. All right. So all of you, you have a good night, and we'll see you next time. And I want to thank you for being here and all that entails. Now, for real, live long and prosper.